Next speaker we have today is Ryan Townsend. He is the owner of the Market Garden in Vic West, and he once referred to as a seed connoisseur. He is here today to speak about seeds. So let's welcome Ryan. Woohoo!
Well, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Excellent. First off, I want to thank each and every one of you. We all have busy lives, busy schedules, but to take the time today to come down here and stand up for such a great cause, I just want to say you all are awesome. I've been gardening since I was about 14 years old. It always amazed me how you can take this little capsule, a seed, and if you give it the right amount of moisture, temperature, it will germinate into a plant. And it's like it's pre-programmed. It has one purpose in life, and that is to produce seed. It is sort of, those seeds can lay dormant in the soil for hundreds of years, even thousands of years. And when the temperature, the moisture gets right, they will germinate again. Talk about one incredible ability of survival. The seeds use that as a security, and so do we. It's basically a survival mechanism, and this is so important. I like heirloom varieties for one reason. They're old varieties that have been passed down from generation to generation. These are varieties that you're allowed to keep the seed from. You're allowed to propagate. They belong to every one of us. Yes. Back in the 1700s, or before the 1700s, all carrots were purple. And then eventually, orange carrots came along. Then you get into hybrids. Hybrids are where they take two parent plants that have of the same family that have strong characteristics. Many people think that's GMO, but it's not. It happens naturally. They cross-pollinate them to try to get the best characteristics of those two plants into the parent plant. That's sort of what my parents tried to do, but failed so spectacularly. And this brings me to GMOs. And that's where you basically take foreign things, genes from animals, people, and put them into plants. They claim that you'll get higher yields. They claim that this will give the world more food security. They claim that we will use less pesticides. Well, there's no proof that we're getting higher yields. They're certainly using a lot more pesticides than they've ever used before. They say GMOs are safe. But this is the company that told us DDT was safe. Agent Orange was safe. PCBs were safe. Aspartame was safe. Is this someone we really want to trust? And now they tell us GMOs are safe. The problem with these things are when they're introduced, you don't notice the effects right away. It sometimes takes years and years before you really see the consequences of the damage these cause. Some chemicals they banned 40 years ago, you still find traces of them. The other big issue is the amount of GMOs being produced. 88% of the world's corn is said to be GMO. 90% of canola is GMO. We have GMO soybeans, sugar beet. They're now GMO salmon. They're putting GMO into animals. Much of the livestock feed is GMO. There's also the issue of contamination. And the courts usually side with the big corporations. There was a farmer in Saskatchewan who was sued by Monsanto because his crop was contaminated by GMOs. And the court ruled, it does not matter if you're contaminated 1%, if you're contaminated 2%, Monsanto owns your crop. They own your seed. You don't have the ability to collect your seed or save your seed, as people have for hundreds of years. Seed and agriculture are the very foundation that provide us life. Now, could you imagine if there was a disease that caused plants, when the seed started to mature, it went sterile? And this spread from plant to plant. Could you imagine what this would cause for our crops, for our society, for our culture? We rely so much on these seeds. Well, I can tell you, this disease does exist. And it's called genetic use restoration technology. And what it does, it's also commonly known as the terminator gene or the suicide gene. And what it does is basically once the seed gets to a certain point, it becomes sterile. So no one can save that seed. No one can replant that seed. This technology was developed in 2007 by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Delta and Pineland. Then, in 2007, the company was purchased by Monsanto. You can ask yourself, why would anyone create such a thing? Something that could be so destructive. Something they can't control, and history's shown they can't. There's over 15 patents on this gene. Is it a good idea to let a biochemical company control our food supply? No. And there's only one way, in my mind, to really stop that, and that's by us making different choices. This island spends approximately $5 billion a year on food. 80% of that or more is imported. I think it's up to 90%. We have to start supporting local growers. Know who's growing your food and where it's coming from. Eat in season. It's not cheap, it's not expensive, but it's the right thing to do. In 1917, World War I, there was a worldwide food shortage. So a group in Victoria formed something called the Victory Garden. And vacant lots, backyards in this city were turned into agricultural land. Beacon Hill Park was planted with potatoes. McDonald Park had sheep. Literally, the city was turned into an urban farm. And if they can do that in a time of absolute scarcity, little to no resource, there's no reason that in this time of absolute abundance, we can create that on this here island. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan Townsend. That was awesome.